Greetings YouTube viewers and welcome to another video on the Ian Bullock channel. It is Saturday the 9th of October 2021 and I'm standing in a historic part of Norwich city centre here in Norwich, Norfolk, East Anglia, called All Saints Green, leading to Westlegate. Westlegate is that road leading down there. I just want to talk today about two things. First of all, a new tower block that's been built in Norwich, or comparatively recently, September 2018, and also an obscure connection with the Beatles. So on the subject of architecture, you can see Norwich has got a strange mix here, really. That rather cute little pink jewellery shop, other buildings that seem to be sort of Georgian, Victorian, and then in the background there you can see 1950s, 60s, 70s, I suppose, architecture built for Norwich Union, now called Aviva, as a fairly functional office space within the city centre, and also behind it there you can see something rather more modern. And then mixed in with that we have other tower blocks, historic churches, some more pedestrianised areas, and then here we have John Lewis, which used to be called Bond's family department store, and that, funnily enough, is where about a week ago I bought my new iPhone 13 mini, which I'm using to record this video this afternoon. So that's John Lewis's department store, which is quite a nice piece of architecture in itself, actually, with that curved frontage. And long may it continue, because there are always concerns that John Lewis is pulling out of different areas where it operates. So we're hoping that our old Bonds, John Lewis, will stay for many, many years to come. One of my favourite shops in the city, along with Gerald's department store. So this is All Saints Green, and the hill down here is Westlegate in Norwich. And I'm going to talk to you now about a new building, which is now become one of my firm favourites. So back in 2014, on this site, just across the road from where I'm standing, there was a Mecca Bingo Hall, which used to be an old Norwich cinema, and that closed, and in 2014 it was demolished. And when it was demolished, there was some speculation about what was going to happen to the site. It was quite an important site in a very historic and attractive part of Norwich, opposite where I'm standing. And I rather assumed that the building that replaced it would be perhaps an attractive little row of coffee shops or shop units or something. Because as you can see, the buildings opposite it here are these, well, I don't know whether they're Georgian or neo-Georgian, Victorian kind of townhouses, offices and cottages. So quite a sensitive city centre site really for a new development. And I thought that perhaps when the Mecca Bingo had been demolished, whatever replaced it would be very, very much in keeping with this, almost a kind of copy to reflect what was on the other side of the road. So I'm just inside John Lewis at the minute in the A Place to Eat coffee shop, which we come to from time to time. And one of the interesting things about this coffee shop, and the reason why I brought you inside, is because it's kind of built on a sort of mezzanine thing, overhanging a section down here, which is in the summer is used for gardening and outdoor stuff, and round about this time in the year it switches over to being a Christmas department. And the buildings that you can see at the back there are the backs of those kind of Georgian houses that I showed you, townhouses that I showed you, which have kind of been incorporated into the store, and it has this glass roof. Now when the bingo hall was demolished and the site became a building site, we weren't quite sure what was going to replace it. And as we sat here with our coffees between about, I suppose, 2016 and 2018, the building across the road that we could see through this glass, which you're now hopefully about to see there in the background, the building, which was behind scaffolding and behind polythene sheeting, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we look through this window and you can see it got taller and taller. It wasn't a little quaint row of little cafes. It was actually this enormous block of student accommodation, purpose-built student accommodation, which obviously maximises the plot in the city centre and has created 244 purpose-built student flats developed by the University of East Anglia and actually mainly used, I believe, by their international students. The UEA, which is on the west of the city on its own campus, is very popular for international students. But when we couldn't see this building, I just began to get more and more and more angry about why on earth such a monstrosity was being built in such a sensitive site. And it just looked a mess, frankly. But like all modern buildings, once it was revealed, it actually turned out to be, well, I think, by the standards of modern architecture, really a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful addition to the cityscape and the city skyline of Norwich. So when all the scaffolding and sheeting came down and this building was revealed in all its modern beauty, I was absolutely amazed at how attractive it is and how I'd really judged it too quickly or misjudged it, because it is a really attractive piece of modern architecture that I think has become quite an asset to this part of historic Norwich. Really lovely modern design, and it has actually won a bronze medal in the International Design Awards, and also was shortlisted in the Housing Design Awards as well, 2019. So it's been acclaimed within the architectural circles. So it's 14 stories high, this building, and it's arranged over kind of 5 blocks ranging from 8 stories to 14 to try and break up the impact of the architecture, because it's quite dominant within this area. On the top, apparently, there's some kind of student common room which has views out across the city, and it's built in this lovely pale kind of grey, yellowy coloured stone with these dark inset metal windows. And I think the whole thing comes together really perfectly. The smaller windows, I believe, are the student bedrooms, and the larger windows are more like the kind of general accommodation areas. And set against this blue autumn sunny sky, it really is lovely. I'll just try and zoom in a little bit just to show you. The architects were Carson and Partners. The building was put together by HG Construction, and the development was by Alumno Developments in collaboration with the University of East Anglia. So at the moment there's quite a lot of development within university cities where they're trying to move students out of traditional rented housing to free up that housing stock. They're putting them into more modern developments, sometimes converted office blocks or new builds, and bringing them together in the heart of cities. They're certainly doing that here in Norwich, and I think the idea is that that gets them out of the old rented houses, which then frees up that stock to the wider community, and also means that I think to some extent they inject money into the city centre economy by being here within clusters like this. So this is Pablo Fanque House in All Saints Green. So Pablo Fanque was actually originally called William Darby, and he was apparently born in Norwich in Burr Street, which is just near where I'm standing. And he became famous in later life as Britain's first recorded and only non-white circus owner. He started off as William Darby, and later, when he became involved in circuses, called himself Pablo Fanque. He was an equestrian circus performer, and apparently ran his circus during for about 30 years during what was considered to be the heyday, the golden age, if you like, of Victorian circuses. He was born here in Norwich. His parents were John and Mary Darby, and he was one of 5 children, born in 1810. And his father was apparently African and was, I think, brought to Norwich, to the port of Norwich, to become a servant in a household within the city. And therefore, young William, later Pablo Fanque, was mixed race, and I think entered the circus industry at a very young age, becoming an excellent horseman. So for those people who know the Beatles LP from 1967, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, they will know that Pablo Fanque has been immortalised in the song Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, which was on the famous Sgt. Pepper's album, actually the only album by the Beatles that I ever bought. And this song began life when John Lennon in 1967 was visiting Sevenoaks, where they were doing some filming for some promotional video or promotional film for Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane at Noel Park in Sevenoaks. And John Lennon apparently went into an antique shop and bought an antique poster, billboard, advertising Pablo Fanque's Royal Circus being performed at Rochdale, and various characters and acts within the circus were named on that poster, which he later used to inspire the lyrics for Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. And the famous lyric, of course, is the Hendersons will all be there, late of Pablo Fanque's fair, what a scene. And that referred to a performer called Mr. J. Henderson, who actually, I believe, was late of Wells's circus. And Mr. Kite, William Kite, who was a circus performer, was actually from Pablo Fanque's fair. And so yes, that I think he was quite liberal with the way he used the poster and turned it into that song. But it's a circus style song, and Pablo Fanque's fair is mentioned in that. And he does have this Norwich connection, so I suppose anything that has the Beatles in it automatically makes someone famous or makes a phrase famous. And so Norwich has to celebrate these connections, and it's celebrated at the moment in this beautiful modern structure, Pablo Fanque House, which for some reason I'm not fully aware of is also called the Quad. I don't know why it's called the Quad. I think Pablo Fanque House is a much better name. Here we have the main doorway and entrance to Pablo Fanque House, with that circus style sign you can see there. And there's quite a grand sort of entrance lobby there, and inside I believe that there's a kind of audio visual display of some kind, talking about the history of Pablo Fanque and who he was and his connection with the Beatles. And I'll just show you another view up here, looking slightly into the sunshine. This apparently is a car-free development. It has 54 cycle spaces at the back. Cost £15.5 million to build and was finished in September 2018. So just down here on the side of John Lewis's, there is a blue plaque that's been put up, which I just showed you here. And this is Pablo Fanque, 1810 to 1871. So real name William Darby. And strangely enough, in these uncertain woke times, he seems to have been referred to as the first black British circus proprietor. Born near this site in Burr Street, which actually is just round the corner there where those houses are and shops. He's also been called non-white, so I suppose that's comes close to being black as well. So as it says here, he's immortalised in the Beatles song Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, with the line, the Hendersons will all be there later, Pablo Fanque's fair, what a scene. So I don't know much about him because the history of him as a character is quite muddled, about when he was born, when he died, how many brothers and sisters he had, whether he lived in a workhouse, I think was the other thing. But in later life, when he was a circus proprietor, he was obviously quite a generous spirited character, because Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite was a special benefit performance of his circus to help William Kite, who was a member of his troupe. Now, back in those days, obviously there wasn't very much provision for pensions and health benefits and that sort of thing. So this would have been a performance in Rochdale of Pablo Fanque's Circus Royal, with the profits and proceeds going to help William Kite as a gesture of goodwill from Pablo Fanque, William Darby, proprietor of the circus. So that's it really, how a building which during its construction phase pre-2018 I absolutely loathed, transformed itself into a new Norwich landmark that I really admire. I like its design, I like its clean lines, I like the materials that have been used by Carson and Partners, the architects. It looks to me like a piece of beautiful modern sculpture right in the heart of Norwich. So yeah, I was too quick to judge really. And the link with the Beatles is quite interesting because, of course, although I present myself as a bit of an old codger, actually the Beatles formed in 1960, 3 years before I was born. And by the time they'd imploded and become rather too clever for their own good, 1970, I was only 7 years old. So the Beatles kind of passed me by, apart from Sgt. Pepper's and the later slightly weird tracks, which I preferred to the Cavern Club thrashers. Anyway, it's interesting that the Beatles still obviously have that importance and that dominance, and the fact that Pablo Fanque has become famous in a modern way thanks to the lyrics of the Beatles. But they certainly passed me by. But he is immortalised in that song, and now immortalised in Pablo Fanque House. So thank you everyone for watching this video, and please keep following my videos on the Ian Bullock channel. Thank you and goodbye. It's Saturday, October the 9th, 2021.